Hello there friends, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Trinity Stamps video. Today we're going to be making a little spinning gingerbread man. But let's talk about what we're using before we get into that. I have the adorable Ninja Bread Man stamp set. It's so stinking cute, perfect for the holidays. But I feel like you could also make lots of other cards with these because they're just so darling. We're also going to be using the brand new Tiny Christmas Tree die. It's really sweet. We're going to be using the slide and spin set because we want this to be interactive. We also have the older embossed edge hills and slopes because we're going to make a little scene here. We could have used those trees, but I wanted the bigger one, so that's why we're going with that. And then we also have the modern embossed A7 layers. I have used this for years. I love it. It's perfect for all those 5x7 cards. And so I do have just a piece of Express It cardstock. I'm inking that up with some Black Widow ink, and I'm going to stamp out my little gingerbread man that we're going to color up using not only Copics, but also some Olo markers. So I do go between the two of them sometimes, just depending on what kind of color I'm looking for, because I don't have the complete set of the Olos. I don't have the complete set of the Copics, but together I have a pretty decent amount of colors, and I do like them both. So we'll use them because we have them, and there's things I like about both of them that maybe the other one doesn't have. So I do like the abundance of colors. I know that there are more colors now, but I do like the abundance of colors that I do have with my Copics. But with the Olos, I love how absolutely juicy they are. So those are fabulous for that. I just can't afford to buy all of them as much as I'd like to have everything, right? Have full set syndrome. I just can't do it. So for now, we're going to combine. All right, just going back and forth between the two colors that I have up on the screen, just adding a little shadowing where I find I want it, and then I blend that out with my lighter color and then go back in with that darker color again in some areas just where I want that to be a little bit more accented. For his mask and his little frosting stripes, we'll bring in some reds. So those are my Olos, and I've put those colors up on the screen for you too. Typically I go light to dark. That's just how I like to color. Sometimes, depending with my grays, I will go dark to light, but it's not very often that I do that. Even though I feel like I can do both. I'm more comfortable going light to dark. So we'll bring in that darker color now and just add a little bit of shadowing where I think it would look good. This is a smaller image, or at least the areas where I'm coloring are a little bit smaller, so you don't have to go too crazy with that. Just to add a little bit of depth is all I'm doing. I'll bring in a CG color for his eyes, and then the CG5 and CG7, and then we'll also keep the CG7 and we'll bring in the CG9. Those are the cool grays, and we'll do his nunchuck. I actually learned from a friend of mine whose daughter was doing this. I think the nunchucks are actually the purple color, like that would be the belt you'd have. But since we're doing a holiday card here, we're going to make him red, and his little gumdrop on his chest is going to be green. All right, now we can die cut him out using the matching dies. We'll tack that down with a little bit of mint tape and run that through our die cutting machine, and he'll be all ready to go. Now let's move on to our panel. So I did cut this down to 5x7, but I do want to use the second largest of the modern embossed A7 layers because I really just love that embossed edge that it has. I'll show you because I'm doing it on the ski slopes that I've also cut out using the edge, the embossed edge hills and slopes. And so I'm going to die cut the same one on that, and you can see the edge, how that looks good. So everything will be nice and uniform when I do put this card together. We're going to do a little ink blending for our background. So I've pulled out 3 colors. We're going to start with our mid color. That mid color is Tropical Tango. It's a newer color. And I'm blending that on the top. And I didn't tell you this, but I'm using a mixed media paper because I just love the way it blends on it. It's nice and thick and strong, and it blends so good. You'll see what I'm talking about when I bring in that darker color. I go a little heavy-handed on the corner, but because of the type of paper it is and just this ink, I'm able to blend everything out really, really nicely. And I also wanted to add some splatters to it. See how dark I got that, but I blended it, and it looks pretty good now. So we used, the lightest color was High Tide, then we used Tropical Tango, and then Loch Ness, which is another new color. I'm going to bring in a solar spray, and I just want to do a little splatter with that one. That solar spray is called Neptune, and it looks so nice on dark cardstocks, but it also looks really good on ink that you've blended. So take a look at that. It goes really well with those colors that I already blended on there. So it just adds this sparkle and shimmer to it that kind of matches that same color. Then we're also going to bring in some Dina Wakley white acrylic gloss. This stuff dries so quickly, and because it dries as quick as it does, you're not going to have it picking up as much of the color that's underneath it, which is great. And then I did die cut out a bunch of those tiny Christmas trees. I think I did about 8. Went a little heavy-handed blending on that one, but I think I did about 8, and really, I didn't know how many I was going to need. I just blended as many as I could fit onto the cardstock that I pulled out of my scrap bin, and we ended up with 8 of them. So I'm blending this color, which is called 4, onto the edges using my blending buddies, and we'll do that for all of those trees. Now they're all ready to go. We can start building up our scene a little bit, trying to see how we want to do it. And I'm playing around with how I want the gingerbread man to be back there. Originally, I was thinking I wanted him to be completely hidden, but in the end, I decided it was okay for him to show just a little bit. So we'll move on to that in a minute, but let's get our snow onto our background. And I'll put a little bit of glue on the edge of that, and then we can add that to our panel that is just slightly smaller than a 5x7. This way I'll have, when I put it onto my base, I'm going to have a nice white border around the base as well. All right, so the scene is pretty much ready to go. So we're going to bring in that slide and spin die, which is great for all your interactive cards. And then we're going to die cut this piece out. I want that ninja to slide down out of the air. So we'll run that through our die cutting machine. And then this is where we're going to have him sliding. We're going to bring in this snap and slide. These are newer. You're going to need your male and your female piece, and those will just easily snap together, and your gingerbread man will stick on top of that. But I'll show you when we get to it. All right, we have our 5x7 card base, which is only made by cutting a piece of cardstock down to 7 inches by 10 inches, and you scored it 5 inches. And it's a top folding 5x7 card. We did glue our little slide to the back there, and now I'm putting that slide and spin on there so you can see how that's going to slide around. I'm bringing in some foam tape. You do want to make sure that if you're using a foam tape, if it's not 3 millimeters, that you double up your foam tape. So this foam tape that I'm using is from Scrapbook Adhesives. It's great stuff. I love this stuff. Works really, really well. But I do need to double it up. So everything you see that I'm putting down one of, I'm actually going to put another over the top of it after I peel off that release paper. I don't show you me doing that just simply because it's kind of, you get the gist. So I just trim all that down. I will peel off all that release paper, and then I will go through and put another layer on top. Peel off all that release paper that's doubled up, and pardon my head, but I'm going to stick this down on top of my panel, and then my little snap and slide will slide all over the place. If you only use one layer, it won't slide. So be sure to use 2 if you need to. Then we bring in those little sticky spots. Those work perfectly, so we can attach our little gingerbread man or ninjabread man to that, and he's going to slide around. And now I'm just kind of placing those trees over the top. With doing this, I am going to need to use some foam tape on the back of those trees. Obviously, because we have our gingerbread man behind the trees, we can't have the foam tape all over that. So what I'm doing is I'm going to build in layers. I'm going to attach these trees to each other using a little bit of liquid glue. And then we'll end up having this one piece that we can add our foam tape to that we need to. So just adding a little bit of glue to the spots where those trees are going to overlap to almost make it look like a little forest back there. And then we'll bring in the next layer of trees, and we'll attach those down also. And this liquid glue is pretty strong, so I'm not worried about it not sticking well. Bring in the next tree. I do end up saving one of those trees for the inside of my card, and then that one final tree, I'm going to wait to attach it. That one's actually going to end up being decorated, so we'll wait with that one. But we're going to go ahead and now attach our stumps to our trees that are showing in the front. I cut out a bunch of those. You could probably avoid this part if you didn't want to do it, but I like the stumps. I think that just adds to the scene. And it's just all the ones in the front. I'm not doing any of the ones in the back because obviously those aren't going to show. All right, and now we can pay attention to where we need to put our foam squares. You have to do the foam squares, otherwise your little gingerbread man isn't going to be able to slide in and out as easily. So I'm just going to put it all across the bottom. This is going to end up being like in an L shape. So we'll put it all the way across the bottom of all of our trees, and then we'll go up the side of the ones on the far left. I'm going to trim this one down though, because I don't need all that on there. So I'll bring in my guillotine trimmer and we'll trim down the tree a little bit. Just a straight cut, and that way I'm not adding foam tape where it doesn't need to be. All right, so all the way up the side of that. And I have the foam squares in a couple different sizes. I've mentioned this before. I find it imperative to have them in all the different sizes. And they have the micros, which I did not know existed, but now that I know, I'm so glad I have them because I need them. I need them in my life. All right, so as you saw, I had big ones and small ones all behind the tree on that left-hand side and on the bottom. And then we'll peel off all the release paper and we can put our trees down. And then our little gingerbread man can slide in and out. Sometimes he gets caught on the trees. I'm not that worried about it. The recipient will understand. And then we can add that last tree after we're done stamping out our sentiment. That sentiment says, "The holidays snuck up on us again." And I love that. And then we're going to stamp on the inside of the card, "Wishing you an action-packed holiday season." We'll stamp out one of our gingerbread man, and then we're going to attach this tree to the side like he's sneaking out from behind the tree. And then we'll trim that down just using some scissors, but the inside of the card is done. All right, now we need to decorate our final tree. And so I'm just using all those pieces that came with our tiny Christmas tree die. And I'm using my reverse tweezers and that liquid glue to adhere down all the pieces. I chose white, I don't know, just because. I almost feel like in the end this card needed a little more. Maybe I should have decorated a few more of those trees. That would have been a lot of fun. But I like the statement that the one tree being decorated does. We also have the star, and this set does come with some little baubles that you can die cut out, but I decided I wanted to use some embellishments, some flat embellishments that I had, and so you'll see that here after I attach our tree down. We're just going to add one foam square to the trunk, and then we'll add some glue to the rest of the tree and attach that down over our other trees. All right, then I'm going to bring in some ruby sparkle spots after I die cut out my sentiment. That's going to decorate the rest of the tree, but I decided that the sentiment needed to be trimmed down a little bit, and so super simple to do, just trimming it where I want it and then making it look like that's how it was die cut out. You could have skipped the die cutting part and just stamped directly onto your card, but this ended up working out really well for me. So we'll glue this down using our reverse tweezers and some liquid glue. And then now I'll bring in those ruby sparkle spots and we'll decorate our tree. And they come in various sizes and they're flat but glittery, which is super fun. So I put about 5 of those down. Love the different sizes. And once I'm done with that, that's going to finish off our card. So I love how he slides out from behind the trees, and we have the inside of our card also. Oh, I love how this turned out, and I hope you do too. If you do, please hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that Trinity Stamps has going on over on their blog, Facebook page, and Instagram for more crafty inspiration. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you soon.